Alright, tubes, we got a little update for you on the Ranger here. We just lifted it. We put about a 2-inch lift on it, and so I figured I'd give you guys a quick walk around, show you how it looks, and then I'll just briefly go into how we did it. I'm not going to go into super detail. I'll save that for another video if I got enough people interested in it, but I will tell you what I did a little bit, and I'll give you some tips on it too, in case you guys are thinking of doing the same thing. I have it a little bit higher in the back because I still want to be able to tow stuff around and not look like I got bad shocks or something. So it's still higher in the back. You guys can probably tell that. And I'll get my tape measure and I'll show you exactly what the measurements are. It's a shame if I could get you guys next to a stock Ranger, that would help a lot too, because you know, then you could tell it's a lot higher. But either way, we'll save that for another day. That'll be another video, and we'll get a nice comparison in. But let me go grab my tape measure and I'll show you guys what we did. Alright, so we take a look at the front here. This is the front driver's side, and I'm going right on the fender flare here. Right, there's kind of a little bit of a line that you can see, and it looks like if we measure right at that line, we're having some trouble focusing here, but I'd say we're looking at 35 1/4. Right around there is where we're sitting at on the front. And then if we go over to the back here, we're sitting almost 2 inches higher actually, right around 37, just about 37 1/4. So that's where we're at on the driver's side. And I'll scoot you guys around back here. The passenger rear, we're sitting at, it's actually a lot lower on this side. I'd have to say 36 and 5/8 is about where we're at on the passenger rear. And then on the front passenger, we're sitting around 35 and 3/8 or so. Alright, so now to how we did this. Like I say, I'm going to keep this kind of brief because not everybody's interested in this, but you guys got to see what it looks like now. So you guys have stuck around this long, you're into the technical stuff. So there's a number of ways to lift Rangers. Obviously you got body lifts. They're I'm not sure if they're the easiest way, but they're the easiest way to get a lot of lift for less money. But I didn't want to do a body lift because that is a lot of work. One guy on the forum said that he did one by himself in 11 hours, and the other guy said it took him 5 days. So in any case, that's a lot of work, whether you're doing it by yourself or not. So that was out of the question. You can get like a super lift, or I think Performance Accessory sells lifts, and you're talking about in the $500 to $1,000 range. So that was out of the question. So the only other option we have for a suspension lift on the cheap is in the front. The 4-wheel drive Rangers have T-bar suspension. So what we did was we cranked up the T-bars, and that brought us up to where we're at in the front. And then in the back, I installed some shackles. I went up to AutoZone, and they sell some shackles there. And some people don't like them. They think they're real cheaply made, but I compared them to a set of Beltec 6400s, which are also used for lifting these, and they're identical. So maybe a couple years ago, AutoZone ones were cheaply made, but not anymore. And I'll show you underneath. Let me climb underneath and I'll show you. Okay, so these are the shackles here, and you might think that they look upside down if you're used to dealing with full-size trucks. And what these shackles actually are off of is these are meant to lower a full-size. I'm not sure if it's an F-150. I'm pretty sure it's for a Chevy. It didn't say in the kit I bought, but the Beltec 6400s you can buy. I'll show you the other side here. They're meant for lowering a Chevy. But if you flip them upside down, it'll lift your Ranger 2 inches. Now you can see there's two settings. I put it on the higher setting or the lower setting, depending how you look at it. But either way, if I had put it down here, it would have lifted the truck up higher. And I didn't want to overextend the shocks. If you look at the shocks back here, you can see the line where they used to be and where they're at now. So it's probably only 1 inch higher on the shock, so that's not going to be a problem. But if I had set it at the next higher setting, I figured that could be a problem. The other problem that we could have ran into with lifting the back too high is we wouldn't be able to level it out enough. Because the way we crank up the suspension in the front is this truck has torsion bar suspension. No coil springs, not like a Tacoma or a 2-wheel drive Ranger. No coil springs in there. So what you have is, if you look underneath here, these bars going underneath, there's one right right there. And if you look underneath, you can see there's one on the other side. Basically, it's a piece of metal that's twisted. So what you can do is you can crank up on the torsion bars. If you look right up under here, that screw right up there, it's a little bit hard to see. I'll turn my light on. That right there, that screw is attached to the torsion key, which is right in there. You can see that hexagon there with a thing in the middle. The hexagon thing on the outside is the key, which is hooked to that screw, and then on the inside it's hooked to your torsion bar. Now the way the torsion bar suspension works, if I had a tripod it would be easier to show you, but basically the torsion bar goes through the lower control arm. So what happens is it's twisted, and the more you twist that, the more you increase the preload on it, it twists more and it forces your front end down. Now one thing I want to mention there is that in doing so, with your front end going down, that'll put your tires like this. So you do have to get in alignment as soon as you're done doing this. One of the other things you got to watch out here is you don't want to max out your T-bar. You don't want to crank them up as far as they go. In general, you really don't want to exceed 2 inches above stock height. So what I did was, first I measured the height. I showed you how I measure on the fender flares. I measured the stock height, then I jacked up the front of the truck, and that's when I cranked up on those screws there. The first time I went up 5 cranks, and that brought us up to about 1 5/8 inches or so lift, and that was before I had the shackles. So it leveled out the truck pretty nice, but the problem I had was the ride was real rough, and I didn't like that at all. So I went down to about 3 turns, and I was able to live with that. But in any case, when I put the shackles in there, it actually smoothed out the ride a lot, so that way I was able to go up higher on the front here. But what I was saying about is you don't want to go too high. The reason for that is it'll put your CV joints at a much higher angle, and that means they're going to wear out faster. Because remember, this is a 4x4 truck, so if you look in here, you can see my CV joints right there. They're kind of at an angle, but not too bad. They're really not that, nothing out of the ordinary, really. But if you go crazy, you can get those things cranked up, and then your CV joints will wear out real fast, and ball joints, and you'll be running into a lot of trouble. Next video, I'll try and get you guys a view of this next to a stock Ranger.